She said we should stop.
Shus, the Sheshiva, which I guess will be here soon. And now, I feel like I really have to say B'Shus Avi Meiri because that's, I think, the only reason I'm standing here. And I haven't made it anywhere in this place. It's like the Yeshiva once told me when my uncle was making a bris and I picked him up to bring him to Lakewood. So he asked me who the bris was for, whose bris it was. Because my uncle said, the truth is I don't know because your father's my son. He's a Talmud. He's a son. So if my son asked me, I do it. I didn't ask him for what. It's a son. So I see the key mashtikal of Bonim Arein Kibonim. So standing here with the Divrei Zikaron of the Rebbetzin Sholom, my hergish is the Derech Klal Divrei Zikaron, to remember somebody that's not here. But if you look, the Sheshiva Shlit writes in two places at least that I saw in Parshas Vayera and Parshas Vayetze that when Yaakov Avinu left, he left Be'eshava. It says Vayetze Yaakov Be'eshava. Yaakov Avinu left, and Rashi tells us what does it mean that Yaakov Avinu left? Yitzias tzaddik min hamokim me'seroshim. When a tzaddik leaves the zeroshim, whenever you have a tzaddik, the derech klal, unfortunately, by us, it's usually only be yitzias tzaddik. When the tzaddik's there, most people don't want the zeroshim. But yitzias tzaddik min hamokim, when he leaves the zeroshim. But at least that's yitzias tzaddik min hamokim me'seroshim. By Avram Avinu, the Sheshiva points out, it doesn't say. It says Vayeshev Avram. He came back to Be'eshava. He also left Be'eshava, and it doesn't say Vayetze. Why didn't the Torah, if the Torah wants to teach us that Yitzias Tzaddik min hamokim me'seroshim, why did the Torah not say this already by Avram Avinu when Avram Avinu was the one that left? So Shiva says that because Avram Avinu, when he left, there was no Yitzias Tzaddik min hamokim me'seroshim because he was never Vayetze. There's a higher level than by Yaakov Avinu, and the higher level is that even after the person leaves, he's still there. The people that are there live with the person. When Avram Avinu left with Be'eshava, the Torah says that many years later he comes back. Vayeshev Avram Be'eshava was the same Be'eshava because they lived with him. After Avram Avinu left, they were still living with Avram Avinu. So he didn't leave the place. His goof left the place. But everyone lived with Avram Avinu and Be'eshava. So the Hergishes were saying different Zikaron for the Rebbetzin Sholom, but there's not Yitzias, a tzaddik or tzaddikis. There's a certain place where she's still chayim, is still alive. We could still take the lessons that we live with. We live with this on a day-to-day. It's not Vayetze. We're living. It's still a Vayeshev. They're still living. The Rebbetzin is still living with us in our lives. There's just two nakudas that I want to bring out. Try to keep it as short as possible. Two nakudas that I think that if we realize that we're living with the Rebbetzin, and the two lessons and nakudas that we could take out from her, out of the many, many that there are, and without too many stories, just to try to take out 2 points. There was a guy that once went to Berlin, and when he came back, he was telling his friend, he was so spoiled, the Jews in Berlin, he never met them before. These Jews, they're such an unbelievable nation. So they asked, what's so spoiled? So he said, well, I saw one guy, He was such a Bamidbar. Saw one person who was such a Bamidbar, the guy says. I saw another person who was such a Kaisen. I saw another Yid, which was a tremendous masmid. I saw another Yid that didn't even want to walk into Beis Medrash. I saw one Yid that was the way he davened. I saw one Yid that didn't daven at all. And he went through, one Yid was a big Baal Chesed, and one Yid was very stingy. And when he finished telling the other guy, his friend, what he saw in Berlin, this guy says, okay, so you see that by people all the time. What are you so impressed by? That was the Chiddush. You could see the same person, he's a masmid one day. The next day he's not interested in learning. One day his tefillah is unbelievable. The next day he's not interested. And sometimes within the same tefillah itself. One day he's a tremendous Baal Chesed, one day he's karg. The same person to have so many different midas. Anybody that ever stood next to the Rebbetzin, Sholom, knew one thing. You knew who you were. There's a certain time that there's a person himself is so many different people. He loses who he is. I have this midah, I have that midah. I don't know if I'm a masmid, if I'm not a masmid, if I'm Bamidbar or not. I'm mixed up who I am. But whenever you stood next to her, there was one thing that was clear. You knew exactly who you were, what your midas were, the best person that you were. We're holding by El. The first thing El is Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. Before a person comes l'doidi, he needs to know Ani. He needs to know who a person has to know himself, who he is. Who is he? What's his milas? What are the milas that he has to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The tremendous chashivas, the chashivas atayra, the chashivas l'liman atayra, the chashivas siras nefesh atayra. Remember by Levaya of my great grandmother, one Shiva Chav said when she remembered, I think the 1905, and his lashon then was, I remember that she was from before it was in style. Whenever I would speak to my father, he would tell me all the time, you have no idea, he always tells me, he says, Isha, you think you're sitting in Kaila, you're sitting and learning, you have no idea what it means Mesiras Nefesh. Who doesn't sit in Kaila today? Everyone. You go, life works and supports you. But to support her, Yeshiva would always tell me to support her Yeshiva when it wasn't in style, and that wasn't what the style was. To go out and to work and to be machshiv Torah and to be able to put kaiches in, that just that the Yeshiva should be able to build up a such a Yeshiva and Talmidim, Sayin Torah, Sayin Midas, to create people, to create a mensch. Like the Manal always says, Hashem, the Hashem of Geshem, all of Hashem says, he says that she was the Ema Yeshiva. My father told me when he was a bacher, and he was doing laundry, and they just came then with the fitted sheets that now had the corners. The Rebbetzin stopped him in the laundry room and said, one day you're going to get married. You need to know how to fold fitted sheets. It's very hard. There's no corners. She sat in the laundry room teaching him. He got married, and the first thing my mother asked him was, how do you know how to fold sheets? You're a yeshiva bacher. So no, you learn Staten Island. There's a Rebbetzin that teaches you how to be a mensch. You have to know how to do that. There was unbelievable for chashivas for every ben Torah, so many ma'asim of which you to realize who you are. It's not I'm a person that I happen to learn Torah. This is leaving that Torah. No, every bacher, every ben Torah, the chashivas and the Mesiras Nefesh for Torah was tremendous. The Shiva writes in the Akdomot of Sefer Bamidbar that the limud of Bamidbar is for a person to realize. The lashon, I think, the underlying message is to give a person confidence and to know who he is. Again, over and over, there was a minion, Rumayna Klai. So what's the point of counting? For a person to know that you're a person, you're a number, you're a chashivas, you're not just one of many. You are a person for yourself. To know the ani, to bring out who you are. When you stood next to the Rebbetzin, you always knew clearly your best milas. There was no such thing. I'm just a regular guy. I'm walking around. You stood the compliments, the demand of you. She demanded that you acted the way you were supposed to. Who are you? There was a demand that you acted a certain way. The Shiva writes, our only competition is ourselves. A person's goal is self-perfection, and he needs to measure it up only to his own potential. A person's busy measuring himself to other people. But Bamidbar, the whole Bamidbar again and again and again is one limud. The limud is, who are you? Who the person who you're not counted to another person. You gave him achzah shekel. You gave Matzah shekel, Moshe Rabbeinu gave Matzah shekel, you're your person for yourself. And that was a feeling every person got. Where did this Mesiras Nefesh come? A tremendous Mesiras Nefesh for Torah that lasted, and you see it in the Talmidim and the children, such a chashivas for Torah and for Midas. Bali Baruch Finkel say of a story, he said it, who he heard it from, Ishmi Piyish, from somebody that was in the yeshiva, in a cheder in Vilna. And he said, once Rebbe Akiva Eiger came to visit Vilna. The person who was saying of the story was there. And it was a very rare thing. So the Malamed of the cheder asked Rebbe Akiva Eiger if he could faher his class. The class was a mixture of different age kids. And he asked if he could faher, so Rebbe Akiva Eiger came to faher them. And he asked a kasha that he himself wrote, Tzarech and Gadol. Rebbe Akiva Eiger asked one of his kashas, Tzarech and Gadol, who would be able to answer? Obviously nobody was able to answer. In the middle, a 12-year-old kid picked up his hand and he gave a teretz. Unbelievable teretz. Rebbe Akiva Eiger was so nispal, a 12-year-old child, to be able to come up with a teretz. And Rebbe Akiva Eiger, and you saw he was so besimcha, and then a minute later you saw a tremendous look of pain, of tsar over Rebbe Akiva Eiger's face. So the Maggid Shiur there asked Rebbe Akiva Eiger, what happened? For a minute you were so besimcha, and then there was such tremendous pain on your face. Rebbe Eiger said, on this kasha I harved it for hours and hours and hours, until I was mechadish a teretz. And this 12-year-old child was mechadish the same teretz. So when he gave the teretz, I realized we have a prodigy we're going to have. One of the Go'anim, one of the Gedolim, this is going to be for sure one of the Gedolim. This guy's an Eloi, 12-year-old child. And I was so besimcha. Within a minute, I realized, when I came up with the teretz, I started dancing besimcha. I was singing and dancing besimcha satayra. I was able to come up with such a pshat. And this child said the teretz and turned around with a total indifference. Nothing. It didn't mean anything to him. So he was mechadish chiddush. I realized we'll never have access. It's another word. It's another chiddush. It's not real. It's not his life. It's not kihen chayenu. If there's total indifference, he's never going to have access. And the Malamed said he followed this person for the rest of his life to check up what Rebbe Akiva Eiger said. And again, this guy was an Eloi Neira. He never even became a Talmud Chacham. Nothing. Because it was an indifference. He was mechadish. But it wasn't who he was. What the Rebbetzin demanded and lived was not that a person learns Torah, not that a person learns Musar, that he has midas, but it's who you are. That's not an indifference. It was a metzias. Torah, it was a Mesiras Nefesh. It wasn't a style to learn, but it was a metzias of who we were. Torah is our life. It's our bloodstream. It's what we are. Midas is what we are. Being a mensch is who we are. That's one tremendous nakuda, I think, to bring it to, for a person to take out, that was always very clear. Whenever you stood with her, to know, for a person to realize his own milas, to be makir his own milas, and what he really is, the ben Torah, what he is, and what's expected of him. And the second nakuda, obviously out of many others, is we're coming towards Yom Neiraim, and we start Yom Kippur, the night, where even if it's a Fra Yid, whoever the person is, every single Yid, Kamat, shows up to one thing throughout the whole year. If he doesn't show up to anything else, that's to Kol Nidre. And the Shelia Shlita asked this many times, what's the grace of Zach about Kol Nidre? Kol Nidre is just being matir neder. It's not like the whole thing, and we say it with such a niggin, and such a service, and with tears, and with crying, and every Yid mamish, that's the psicha to Yom Kippur, you're being matir neder. So Shiva says of Pshat many times. So just to save a minute or two, I'm not going to say the Pshat now, but just be myself just a limud. Every one of us, we do things all the time. There are many actions that we do. But what are we? When a person, the Rebbeinu Shalom created a person who was a ruach mimalalo. The Rebbeinu Shalom created a world ba'asara ma'amoris. Everything was on Maimer, which means if I see a shtender which is very strong, this is only the gashmi of the dibur of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. The table, the building, the walls, the metal, everything's really dibur. The ruchni of it is dibur, is speech. The tetzah, what comes out of speech, is a gashmi. As long as a person does tremendous, no matter what Averis he did throughout his life, and he thinks, what do? I'm going to be masakin, I'm going to come Yom Kippur, and I'm going to clap al chay, and all of a sudden in 2 seconds I'm going to get rid of it. How many of us are Maimon? Chafetz Chaim speaks about many times why we have so much technology today. And Chafetz Chaim says that he thinks that the Chafetz Chaim says the reason we have technology is not because we're smarter, but as long as Klal Yisrael were maminim and we had emunah, so we knew these are ayin raya, these are in shemas. We all knew that. It was Pashit. So Rebbetzin didn't have to prove it to us. But as we lost our Amunah and it's hard for us to believe that there's an Ayin Roya, so Hashem had to show us there's an Ayin Roya. Look, I'll show you. Somebody could see you from Eretz Yisrael to here. You don't believe Eis and Shemayas, I'll show you these recordings. In every area, the Rebbetzin had to show us so the Amunah should become Amunah Pshuta. It should be easy for us to understand. Recently, one of the most famous things that came out in technology was, I think one of our presidents was very busy with it. The biggest thing in technology is called fake news. What's fake news? You see one person doing an Aveira and also looks like he's a big tzaddik, he's a mitzvah. The Arab is in the middle stabbing and it looks like he's getting stabbed. You could change a picture in 2 seconds. Why did the Rebbetzin do it? When we have a Maisa, a person does it, we have a Amunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but how many people believe that I could change the action I did in the Koyach HaTshuva? That I could do a Maisa and I have the ability to totally change it, that it wasn't Aveira, it was a mitzvah. So when we lost that Koyach of Amunah to believe that I could have done one thing and totally changed it in another thing. So eventually made a simple thing, you could see it. You did an Aveira and you'll see a clear picture. You're doing a mitzvah. It's not a problem. There's a koyach of tshuva, there's a koyach to change. So a person comes to Yom Kippur and he's going to klap al chet, and we're a couple diburim, he's going to say a few words, and all of a sudden he's going to change all the actions he's done. You know what I've done this year? And I'm going to change it with a couple of words. And the Torah says if we realize what koyach ha-dibur was, if we realize what one word that came out of our mouth meant, of course we would believe that dibur is much stronger than a maisa. A maisa is just the teitzah it's the gashmi of what we say. Words are much more powerful. So of course an al-chet or any vidui has the ability to change that. But there's only one question: do I value my own words? If I don't value my words, then what's it worth? I'm going to come in Kippur, I'm going to spend the whole day in Beis Medrash saying, clapping Azay and saying Lasham, I'm going to say vidui. What's it worth? I've promised things in my life and I haven't kept it. I don't value my word. If I don't value my word, then the whole vidui is not going to do anything, because I'm going to say, you did this, and this, and this. And also you want to change it with a vidui? And I say, yeah, words are so powerful. No, it's not. You don't value it. So first thing is we come into Yom Kippur and we say, Kol Nidre, with the greatest desires, we mo'er ourselves. What it means, how could I not value my word? How could I say something and not keep it? After a person puts it in with such an unbelievable niggin and puts it into himself, what is Koyach HaDibur is, then all of a sudden it changes. Now he could come to the Holy Yom Kippur. There's so many ma'asim said over by the Levayo, but one of the tremendous things to see the integrity. The Rebbetzin on Sholom, whatever she would say, every word, so gecheshmin, to realize what she said was 1,000,000%. Every word was without a shadow. There was no such thing. The honesty, the ma'asim of people, goyim that trusted Yidden just because they knew her, and they knew if this is a Yid, then you know 100% every word with such integrity. And it's and the power to be able to compliment a person, to be able to build people. We take those tremendous limudim of Sai, what the koyach of the word is and the integrity that we saw, and to be able to realize the koyches and milas that we have, then of course, like we said by Avraham Avinu, that Rashiva writes that it's not by Yetzei, and he never left, it's not Yitzhak Sadik when Amokim Meisaroshin, because Avraham Avinu was, even after he left Beersheba, was still there. And every time we walk to the Beis Medrash and you see Binyan Chavasora, it's not, a Zikaron to Binyan Chavasora. When we see it, you see her, we see what is she teveah from us? How does she want us to act? How does she want us to live? And Mamelu B'taka B'Zeicha, to live the way she wanted us to live, and to be able to continue, to realize our own milas, and to be able to realize our milas and the koyach of every word that we say, and how we could live up to the life that she wants us to live.
Shlit. Amal, the bacher comes to a sugya. You have a shver sugya. Sometimes, especially a young bacher, you start learning a shver sugya, and sometimes you become overwhelmed right away. You know that the sugya has so many different tefanim, so many different steps, so many different havaminas, so many different maskanas, so many different shitas, and it can overwhelm you. So you have to learn over time how to break a sugya down, take it apart, be magdir the sugya. To be maspid, the Rebbetzin alei Sholom is a daunting task, because it's just one of those characters to those of us who were zeicha to know her, it's larger than life in many ways. It's just such a presence. And when I say a presence, she was somebody who can affect you in so many, in every facet of life. No matter what it is that you were dealing with, no matter what it is that you wanted to discuss, no matter what it is that you were doing, every facet of life could be touched upon by the Rebbetzin Alei Shalom. And it's something that even now, you're constantly saying, what would the Rebbetzin have said? What would the Rebbetzin do? Even here in camp, I remember we came up here at the beginning of the summer, and you see a child, riding a scooter, a little kid riding a scooter, very haphazardly, very fast, not wearing a helmet. So I smiled at my wife and I said, when he'll get to the end of the road, he'll pass the Rebbetzins bungalow, the Rebbetzins going to say, put on a helmet. You don't have it now. But that sounds like a vitz, sounds like a joke, but it's not. But she touched every single facet of life. Yet, you have to try to take certain nekudas, so a few nekudas that I want to speak about. And the truth is that in a way, this is one of them. We know that the Rebbetzin, Alei Shalom, was very makpid. She wanted things to be done right. She wanted things to look nice. She wanted things to be organized. Herself personally, she was always 100% put together. You never saw her in any way disheveled, even the slightest bit. It even struck me, I'd never forget, even in the hospital after the Ketira, I said, she looks regal. That's how she always looked. She always looked regal. Didn't matter if she was by a chasana, didn't matter if she was going to work, didn't matter if she was popping into the yeshiva for something. She always looked regal. And she always carried herself in a regal way. And that's the expectation that she had from us. And it's the expectation that she had from the yeshiva. I remember as a young bacher in 9th grade, I remember one day you see suddenly the guy is running around the yeshiva and he's cleaning windows. Cleaning windows. Halavai, the floor always got clean. The windows they're cleaning. What's going on? I asked somebody, what's going on? The Rebetzin's coming. The Rebetzin's coming. The Rebetzin's coming. The place has got to be snapped into shape. So you ask, why? Why? What is it? What's it based on? Some people are just a neat freak. That's the way they are. They like things neat. Another person just likes fancy things. All right, a person likes fancy things. You could look at it in a very negative way. He's Magushim. He has priorities wrong. It's not what this was in any way, shape, or form. And I'll tell you what I think it was. One thing I said over by the Chanikas Abayis, I think is very true, and that is the Yeshiva Zatzal's word in Parshas Re'eh, as a bracha asher tishma'u. Everybody's medayik. The pasuk doesn't say as a bracha im tishma'u. It's not if you listen to the Torah, then the Rebbetzin Shalom gives you schar and you get a bracha. As a bracha asher tishma'u. The bracha is living Torah. Living a life of Torah is a life of bracha. You don't have to get an external schar. As a bracha asher tishma'u. Take a look at the world. What is a life of bracha? Take a look at the people who are, quote unquote, very successful in American life. They make a lot of money. They become famous. Are they happy? Do they have a life of bracha? Take a look at the non-Jewish world. How many of them end up committing suicide? How many of them are on drugs? How many of them are alcoholics? So apparently that's not a life of bracha. But a life of Torah is a life of bracha. And it's a davar pasha. Chazal tell us, "Estakel bar raisa bar alma." The Rebbetzin Shalom created the world. The Torah Akdosha is the blueprint of the world. So if you want the world to work, use it according to the instruction booklet. If you live a life of Torah, so you're living a life that brings success. You have nachas from children. You have family. The Torah Akdosha gives you a way to live where you have what you need, but you don't go overboard. and you don't get sucked into the morass of Gashmias and everything else. So the Torah HaKadosh gives you a way to live that works. By the Rebbetzin, Allah Sholom, everything was Torah. Every single facet of life was dictated by Torah. And because of that, it had to be right. Because the Torah HaKadosh is perfect. The only perfect thing in the world is the Torah HaKadosh. So if the Torah HaKadosh is perfection, then the life that's dictated by the Torah HaKadosh is perfect. It's a life that works. That's what it is. But I'll take it a step further. Everybody likes to say by Sheva Brachas. They speak by Sheva Brachas. They like to say you should be zeicher to build a bayis neman ish v'isha zachu shchina shruya b'neihem. The yud from ish, the hey from isha. You have the shchina. So mamish, you're going to build now bayis neman amigdash ma'at. You should be zeicher. You should have hashras hashchina. Is it so easy to have hashras hashchina? Hashras hashchina comes so easily. Where did we have hashras hashchina? At Hashras HaShchina, the Beis HaMikdash. Did the Shechina come into the Beis HaMikdash so easily? And did it stay so easily? It's not so easy to get Hashras HaShchina. If you want to see what it takes to get Hashras HaShchina, sit down, Rabbi Say, and learn Kachim. There's something very fascinating that you find out when you learn Kachim. And unless you learn Kachim, I don't know how many people really appreciate this. Everything that went on in the Beis HaMikdash was done with tremendous precision. Every measurement is down to the nth degree. There's no question. I made the Mizbeach a little bit bigger. I made the Mizbeach a little bit smaller. Okay, we'll put the Parshas here. We'll put the Parshas there. Everything was immensely precise. Where the Kohen was going to walk, immensely precise. When the Kohen went lifnai lifnim on Yom Kippur, he could just, I'll grab the Ketairis, I'll go this way, I'll go that way, it doesn't matter. No, nothing haphazard. The Kohen is told precisely where he has to go. And the Kohen is told precisely how he has to go. And how he has to carry it. And which hand. And how he's going to do it. And in many cases, if you deviate from the exact precise instructions, the avodah is not kosher. So if you want to have hashras hashchina, the mainst it's so easy. You want to have hashras hashchina, you have to have that level of precision. You want to build a bias, you want to bring the shchina into it. It has to be according to the way the Torah dermon that it has to be. And I'll give you a silly mashal amad daradoima. People go to London, they go to visit, they go touring, they go to Buckingham Palace. They go to Buckingham Palace, and you see by Buckingham Palace the changing of the Queen's guards. There's a certain number of guards, and they walk in a very precise fashion, and they march exactly in a certain way, and they move their guns a certain way, and they wear their hat a certain way, and everybody's shtoimim. Wow, it's really something to watch. What Starfman does, they need it for. So let them mill around. Come on, they're guarding the palace. They're not even guarding the palace. What, you think they're really guarding the palace against an attack? Well, it is a show. What is it already? So let them mill around outside in the courtyard, and this guy has his hat like this, and the other guy has his hat like that. One guy wore a red jacket, one guy wore a blue jacket, and they'll walk around, and when it's time to change guards, they'll chop and schmooze one with the other. This group will go out there, this group, what do you need all of this for? It's all silly. But people understand that it's not silly. People understand that that's taksise malchus. That shows something. It shows a chashivas. There's a chashivas to the davar. When the Rebbetzin Alei Sholom came to yeshiva, what was she coming to? She's coming to a migdash ma'at. She was coming to a place that was a representation of Torah. It's a manifestation of the Torah. That's what it is. A coffee room in a Beis Medrash to the Rebbetzin Alei Sholom was supposed to be a muster of what does the Torah HaKadosh dermon from us. How is a person supposed to live? Is a person supposed to live that you have a room with his paper towels all over the place and the countertop is a mess and everything is spilled and it's not cleaned up and the sugar's here and it's not, if that's the way the Torah HaKadosha says that you should live, then chas v'chalila, it sounds like there's something wrong with the Torah HaKadosha. Everybody understands that that's not perfection. Everybody understands that that's not. If you were going to design and you were going to plan and it was up to you exactly how it should be clean, it should be neat, it should be, okay, maybe there's practical problems. We can't get the guy in every 15 minutes to clean up and this and that, and the guy spills coffee, has a charusa waiting for him, whatever it is. But everybody understands, at least I hope, that there's a hecher, a oifim. To the Rebbetzin Allah Sholom, if you're in a yeshiva, if you're in a beis medrash, then that's a representation and a manifestation of Torah. And therefore, it has to be perfect. It has to be clean. It has to be beautiful. But it goes even weiter than that. It's what she mund from every ben Torah. It's what she mund of every from Yid. Kiheim chayenu v'arach yameinu. Your life is supposed to be a manifestation of Torah, especially if you're a yeshiva bacher in a yeshiva. So what are you? You are a representation of Torah. That's what you are. So if you're a representation of Torah, you have to look like a mensch. Talmid Chacham is not allowed to walk around with a stain on his beged. For the same reason, Chil Shem Shamayim. So a yeshiva bacher has to look like a mensch. The yeshiva has to be menschlich. The building should be beautiful. The way a yeshiva bacher comports himself. If the Rebbetzin Allah Sholom saw one of our bacherim, which is how she spoke about them, our bacherim was her bacher. Every bacher that went into the doors of yeshiva became one of her bacher. So if one of her bacherim were comporting themselves in a way that was nicht wie es darf zu sein, that was a personal affront. It was a gefährliche Sache. Why? Because it's not that the Torah is in the beis medrash, and outside of the beis medrash, I do what I want. It's not that the Torah is in the beis medrash, but the Torah has nothing to do with helmets. It's not that the Torah is in the beis medrash, but the Torah has nothing to do with whether or not I have a clean shirt. Everything is Torah. The way you dress is Torah. The way you walk in the street is Torah. The way you speak to somebody is Torah. The derech eretz that you have is Torah. Everything is Torah. And if it's all Torah, it all has to be done the right way. And that's why she comported herself the way she, and that's why she was regal. Because she personally had a tremendous understanding of what it meant that she's a bas malachim. She was a bas melech. Why? Not because of yichus, not because of the Yeshiva Zatzal, not because of the Yeshiva Shlita, because of the Rebbein Shalom. It's from a Yid. It's a bas melech. One of my Rebbeim taught me when I was in Yeshiva Ketana. He was teaching us Hilchas Tzitzis. He wanted to give us a chashivas of tzitzis. He told us, do you understand that in the morning when you get up and when you put on that talis katan, what are you putting on when you put on that talis katan? You're putting on a beged of malchus. That's what it is. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave you a beged. That's what it is. That's just something you throw on under your shirt and forget it. It's a beged of malchus. It's a beged that says, Ich bin afrum yid. Asher v'charbonu mikol ha'amim. It's a tremendous chashivas. You have to act that way. You have to comport yourself in that way. The other nakuda, this chashivas, the chashivas of what it means to live a life of a frum yid, to live a life of Torah, is something that carried over to the way the Rebbetzin Allah Sholom related to everyone else around her. The Rebbetzin treated everyone that she came into contact with as an Adam Chashuv Ma'od. A bacher came in, she gave that bacher, she spoke to that bacher, she uplifted that bacher. She didn't greet. When she made a simcha, there are some people, they make a simcha and people are coming and greeting them. Depends who they are. There's the Besser mention. There's this person is choshev. This person, I don't even know who he is. Blah, 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 blah. By the Rebbetzin, everybody who came over, everybody came and said mazel tov. Oh, you're here? How's this one doing? How's that one doing? Oh, the last time I met you, this is what was going on. How's your daughter? How's your son? You made a simcha recently, didn't you? How's the married couple doing? How's the young couple doing? I would come into the house. Oh, how's this child doing? How's that child doing? What's going on with your wife by work? How's everything? What's everybody? It didn't matter who it is. Why? I remember I had a shtickle relative, not a close relative, somebody in diamonds. He had a very odd story. He bought a lot of semi-precious, uncut stones. So he had a box, and it looks semi-precious stones, even diamonds, when they're uncut, they look like rocks. They don't look like anything very chashuv. So he was on the phone with somebody, and while he's on the phone, he's playing with the rocks and he's picking them up, and he's takes a look at a rock, he puts it back down, he puts up another one, bangs it on the desk, scrapes off a little bit, takes a look at it, and he's having this conversation. Suddenly he picks up one of the very large ones in the box, and he gives a knock on the table, and suddenly he goes stock still, and he like freezes. Then he takes the rock and he scrapes it against the table. Then he goes at his desk, he takes out a loop, he looks at it. Meantime, he has somebody waiting on the phone. The guy says, "What's going on?" He says, "I'll call you back." Turns out that this stone that he picked up was a diamond. It ended up being one of the largest uncut stones in the world. I forgot what it had. It's one of these stones that have a name. It's one of the devil's something. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Okay, so now he has this very, very large diamond. Now again, a diamond uncut, well, this is a rough stone. If you want to bring out the beauty of the diamond, you have to cut it. So he brought it down to the cutting floor, and he gave it to his most experienced diamond cutter, and he said, analyze it and figure out what can we do with this diamond. So they went, they did an essay and everything else, that they worked it out, and they came back and they gave him two choices. There's two different things we could do with this diamond. We could do minimal cutting, and if we do minimal cutting, I think if I remember correctly, it would be the largest cut perfect stone in the world. It was a perfect stone. It had no flaws. But that is not going to show the true beauty of the diamond. If we want to cut this diamond the way it should be cut to show off the beauty of the stone, we have to take off more material. And then you're going to lose the size. It's no longer going to be the largest perfect stone in the world. So he wanted the cachet of having the largest. So he said, cut it the first way. So they cut it, and this fellow was a very, very experienced diamond cutter, did a beautiful job. They went, they mounted it in a beautiful display box, and he was famous. He has the largest cut perfect diamond in the world. A few years pass by, he goes back to the diamond cutter. He says, I want you to recut it. Recut it and show off its true beauty. He says, I'm having no hana from this stone at all. Every day I walk by this stone and I look at it and I say, it's not what it could be. It's not what it could be. What's the yachas? It's big. It's big, but it's not beautiful. The whole yachas is supposed to be that it's beautiful. It's not beautiful. Take it back, make it beautiful. So they took it, they cut it, they made it beautiful. Now he doesn't have the fame anymore, but now it's a gorgeous stone. The Rebbetzin Aleh Sholom, when she saw another Yid, it didn't matter who it was. When she saw another Yid, when she met another Yid, she had an instinctive chashivus for that person. That person is a melech, because we are mamleches kaihanim b'goy kadosh, Rabbi say. The Rebbetzin Shalom doesn't throw words around loosely. We know that there isn't an extra ice cotton in the Torah Kedoshah. So if the Rebbetzin Shalom turns around and the Rebbetzin Shalom says that we're a mamlechus kahanim v'goy kadosh, that's what it is. We're a mamlechus kahanim. Kahanim, Rashi says, doesn't mean a kayin. Rashi says kayin over there means a sar, a nasi. So we're all chiefs and no Indians. That's why sometimes we run into problems, because we're all chiefs and no Indians. But we're all chiefs. Every one of us is a prince. Every one of us is a melech or ben melech. Sometimes somebody is an uncut stone. Sometimes somebody is still rough around the edges. So fine. So he has to be cut. That's what we have yeshivas for. That's what we have rabbeim for. That's what we have Rosh Yeshiva for, right? To make us cut, to perfect us. But when you have that chshivus, when you meet another yid, you realize that that yid is a melech, that yid is a sar. So then you not only do you treat that person with tremendous chashivas, you do whatever you can to uplift them. And you make them, and I think Rav Zish alluded to this, you make them realize what they are. Remember by the Levaya, one of the Einiklach said, when I went to Bubby, she made me realize what I could be. Until I came to her, I didn't realize what I could be. But when I came to her, she made me realize what I could be. And now I could accomplish that much more. No, this is a taste of the sugya that the Rebbetzin Sholom was. These are some of the limudim that we could take. Hopefully we'll live up to the schus that we had, that we were able to know her. And by going ahead and by incorporating these lessons into our life, it should be a schus for her. And the Shama should have an aliyah. He's zichra baruch.
What's this thing supposed to do that?
What?
What's this supposed to be?
Yeah, but it got the way they set up the camera. The way they set the camera. And we put it up. They would see it. I guess. You have your water. I'll just check that it's focused right.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
I think it's on backwards.
You gotta have a kid for that.
It's on the same thing. Sorry, look.
With Nahar Shabbos. In Parshas you're listening to the Espedim, Rosh Shiur's book, that in Eitzim you live the Tevis of the Eyamechi, meaning it doesn't say what the bracha is, it says that Kolola is a bracha, what the Kolola. It doesn't say what the bracha is, it doesn't say what the Kolola is. He says, no, it says, in other words, that you live the way of Torah, that's itself is a bracha. You don't see, and there are yichidim, obviously, in everything, but to say, an emes of Yid is trying to do Avodas Hashem, you won't find a person that will do these things that are done in the world. The government now, schmutz, wanted to resign. I mean, that would never happen by us. It's just that because it just can't. I mean, fun, taiva, fun, everything in the world, there's no question about it. But there's always the concept of krishayetza, and if there isn't, the meaning of tshuvi. But there's no such thing as someone that's not, that just is callous about something, whatever he does. That we don't have. And that's why there's a big difference between us and Goyim, just simply how we live. The pell is why Goyim don't want us as neighbors, because we're probably the best neighbors they can have is quiet, respectful, mind our own business generally. And on the other hand, what they would rather have Goyim who are a bunch of hicks, a bunch of drunkards, a bunch of loudmouths, whatever it is, nivul peh. That nivul peh has become the way of life, the way of the world. Talking about my wife before, one thing that the teachers and the kids in the school knew that they cannot talk to if they're going to use nivul peh. They refused to listen. So there was a kid once, I think his name was Anthony, that was a wilder kid. And she once caught him doing something and she mamish bawled him out. And she said about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, mamish with cuss or with anger. And at the end, all he said to her, Mrs. Feinstein, you really don't curse. So, and after that, he became like, he told the kids, you want a fair hearing, you go to Mrs. Feinstein, she's fair, she's good, but you can't curse. Because you curse, she won't listen to you. So I'm saying there's the things that to live like a yid. I mean, this is just the normal talk of the world. Is something that we can't even stand. It's not even shy for us to stand to sword. That's what it means. It's a good life. Is the type of Torah that itself is the bracha. I don't need more bracha. Now, if I stayed it wouldn't be bad with a couple of bucks in the pocket. It wouldn't be bad other things. But the Maisa, it's the Ikea thing is the fact that we live like a Yid. Everything has a Seder, there's a sense of Simcha. The kinds of Mechabit Shabbos. Shabbos is something special. Yom Tov is something special. These things, and then Mele, we have a different lifestyle than they have. It's not something, by them Saturday is a shopping day, Sunday is a shopping day. The whole concept that the Hanei of Kedusha, that you marvel yourself in the whole world, and I find God that by Freie Yidden, the part that amazed the most about Shabbos, I had them in the house sometimes, is the fact that you forget about the world. Now, there's no business, there's no phone, what do you call it? The world has disappeared as far as I'm concerned. My worries are gone. I'm now just living in the day of this. Rather come Shabbos night, we're back in the same thing. But until Shabbos night, I'm in a different world. That world doesn't exist, and that is a bracha in itself. And unfortunately, if you don't keep the Torah, you'll end up with klol. And klol means you'll end up with drunkards, dope addicts, so on, throwing away your ganze bahus, whatever you are, and the potential and everything else. You have, it says over here right away, so it says, so it tells you, what are these what you can do? What are you called? Well, what are they? And I'm sorry, I should have read the post before that. So I'm going to tell you what the chushim are. This is unfortunately not in the Parshas. I read the days. It's not really the Parshas. That was my mistake. Okay, the post before says, I'm going to I want you to learn them and do all the mishpatim, all of them. And what are they? These are the ones that I want you to do. And all it talks about is the ibud of Avodah Zarah. and that you're not allowed to do to a Rebbeinu Shalom. But the concept is Ibur Avodah Zarah. So we understand the mishpat part of it. That's understandable. You have Avodah Zarah around. There's always the chashash you may use it. And they give you an extra line in using it. But what is the chukim part of it? The chukim part of it, I think, is the fact that you have to destroy it. It's valuable. It's sitting there, not for PK, I want you to destroy it. It has no shivas at all to you. And what are we going to do? We can support Torah with it. Look at the mitzvahs we can accomplish with it. Yeah, that's my problem. That's not your problem. And that's the point that teaches that these chukim, when we spoke about that the chukim teach you to be who you are. These chukim teach you and betoch in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, as I rely on him, it's his business. That it's not worth anything. It's his business. And it's also a tremendous kvishas hayetzel. In other words, what I want to say, like you have in the beginning of Psachim, Machlekes Rashi and Teisus, what is bia chametz? Teisus holds simply burn it. That's the bia. Rashi holds the bittel. That's the bia chametz. What do you mean that's it's still around? What do you mean that's bittel bia chametz? Says that the Torah demands of us is that we should have something that's yesterday or 2 minutes ago before this man was choshuv, and now it's ge'af for the yara, and you should feel that way. The reason we destroy it is because tomorrow you may wake up in the morning and not realize you're doing this thing, and all of a sudden you see, oh, look what I have in the house, and then you be clean it, whatever it is there, and then it makes it exclusive you be about your matzah. So we get rid of it. But the Ikea Biyo is the fact that it doesn't exist. But what do you mean it doesn't exist? It's right there in front of you. It doesn't exist. It has no shivas to me. And to exist, you have to have shivas. Yeah. Parshas then go into the union of a Navi Sheker. Navi Sheker is to Avodah Zarah, what he did. Before that. Sorry, before that. Shema v'shemata. It says over there a few times in the Torah, Rashi brings it down to the Gemara Kedushin. Shema v'shemata, so Rashi brings it down. Shema means to learn. I can't see it from my eyes, but it says in Rashi Shema, it means that you learn. But Rashi also says that you have to have it until it's internalized. Nichnes v'bitnecha. In other words, you have to keep chazing something until it's internalized. Now, what do you call something internalized? So basically, it's something Parshas Chukaisai. The Mishnah said, the Pasuk says, "Im chukaisi telechu v'smitzvosai tishmeru v'asisam." So that's the Pasuk. Rashi says, "Yocho tishmeru." What he called means asiyas hamitzvos. It says it's tishmeru. So you see, a mitzvah is written in the favors. So chukaisi telechu, so it can't mean to do the mitzvahs. So what it means, you don't have to Harav in it, whatever it is though. The Pele is the next word is Vasisa. Why didn't he just say it says Vasisa? Why did he put it on? It says Tishmo. The correct word should be Vasisa. So kind of that means that the real Asiya is the learning. In other words, when you learn something, you're supposed to create something. How do you create something? What are you creating when you're learning? I'm creating a person that he becomes the chefs shel mitzvah. He becomes the mitzvah itself. I said at the beginning, I always think it was a bezoin. I think I mentioned it that always that way, and how I felt that was a mistake. So Shiva, when he first got sick, How do we know he was even sick? He was always falling asleep, sleeping. One of my friends was a doctor, came up, took blood, and he found that he has excessive calcium in the blood. Calcium in the blood makes you drowsy, not chloric up, whatever it is there. Okay. How do you get rid of it? You go in the hospital and they give you intravenous, and that flushes out the stuff in the blood. Okay, so he's in the hospital. He doesn't want to be there for this. Happened after Purim, before Pesach. He doesn't want to be there for Pesach. And obviously, though I didn't finish the job, and so he came home. And that time, it couldn't be done by a Hatzolah, it had to be done by a nurse. Okay, so they had a nurse. The nurse was Korean. And I used to daven there. We had a minyan in this dining room. And afterward, we have a little kiddush for the Yelim so that you come. So I made kiddush and I poured wines into little glazelach. And everybody took a little glazel. So the nurse came over, took a glazel and wanted to give it to Rosh Hashanah. And he kept he held his lips into his teeth like that and just shook his head back and forth. The nurse started, she don't understand, he's such a good patient. He does everything there. And we're all sitting there. We have chloric cup, right? And we can't figure out what's going on. Until Beryl picked himself up. That's my nephew, now in He took a different glass and gave it to Shiv and he drank it. And then it hit us, push it, stam yenu. Oh, but it's mevushel, yeah, but he doesn't know it's mevushel. So to him it's stam yenu. But how does he know it's stam yenu? How does he know she's a goy? How does he know anything else? Obviously he knows. And you want to give him wine from Kiddush. And his guy is the one that's giving him the wine. It's stam yenu. And he won't drink it. So, but he's not close. How come he was able to do that? Because the body can't drink stam yenu. You'll ask an old person sometimes. When I'm talking about real old people, the doctor says you got to eat on Yom Kippur. They can't. They can't, doctor. I can't. What do you mean you can't? You can. You take eat. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a head. I'm telling you a lot to eat. I can't eat. I can't eat on Yom Kippur. No, the body becomes that it can't do certain things, and that's the biggest asiyas, a mitzvah that you're doing. So then, if you can ask me, then so why do we have to do mitzvahs then? So first of all, I don't think you can actually. But they think that, so because you have to analyze it, what it is there and stuff. But in that mission, you're right. I don't have to do it once I did that. Once I went through the sugyas and everything else, I don't have to do it. If I say brachas the same way I said it before I learned brachas, you didn't learn brachas. So you daven the same way, you learn Shlit the same way. It's not you didn't learn. It didn't go into you. It's just there was ideas. We once had a girl in the yeshiva. I know you're not learning in the yeshiva. Came once, someone asked me to invite him for Yom Noayim. Some of us who were in yeshiva at that time remember him. Another Choshev. Anyway, when I first saw him, when I asked him to invite him, I said, how long is he here? It was only 2 weeks. 2 weeks. What's he going to do in the yeshiva? I mean, the regular guys will go crazy in the yeshiva for Rosh Hashanah davening. So what are you going to put in a girl there? You can't. Guy says, please. I said, no, against please, you can't do too much. So you go and take it. Okay, I took him, I picked him up in the yeshiva. He was wearing a backpack, a bomber jacket, a beard, or whatever it is there. I don't think his head is curly hair. I think it's the beard. And he comes to pay for Rosh Hashanah. By the end of Rosh Hashanah, I asked him a question. He was learning, he learned, obviously you learn a little bit about him. learned 2 years in Eretz Yisrael and a yeshiva Gemara before he became a Ger. Okay? And then he became a Ger. So I asked him, I can't ask this to anybody, but the Gemara says that Torah by Bayamim al Tamin, Chochma you can believe it, not Torah. So I said, what does that mean? What's the difference between you learning Torah as a Goy and you learning Torah as a Yid? He says, the truth is I can't answer you at that moment. I said, because I'm only just now, and my parents more or less kicked me out. They don't want to have anything more to do to me. This thing. Well, if you're asking me, he says, I know all the religions. So I know Shintoism, I know Hinduism, Buddhism, all these things he knows. So, but it's only a Yediyah. But now, this Torah is by these words you live. That's what it means. Now, it's a different chivas the words. It's not just the chokhmah. This is what you live by. I heard. That's why they can't have Torah. Not Shaykh, it doesn't live by it, just the Chachma. So I asked him, if you have a different tales, please tell me. And we had Shaykhs for, I don't know how many years he kept coming to the yeshiva. I was in Sada Kedushin, moved out to Yisrael. The Choshvi guy who was a librarian in Harvard. I mean, it wasn't a Saba guy. I'm just saying, but he had all these ideas and everything else. Ideas. That doesn't mean anything. You have to become part of you. It has to become by these words you live. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. So it's a different type of learning. So that's the test. I see somehow you do the mitzvah. Do you do it a different way now? Do you do it a different achshivas, and so on. There used to be my wife's yeshiva when she used to work in the Svardim, my behavior. He used to give a moshel for his parents, the difference of what this means, the chivas of a mitzvah. He says, we make a bracha on it, so we talk about the rooster. The rooster crows every morning. And I Shrei. We had one in Yeshiva one day. Sometimes there was a neighbor that had a rooster comes running into the yeshiva. Okay. Anyway, you hear him ganz good in the morning. And the shaila is, he says, you go, the guy describes to you the sunrise in this place in the world. And you go there and you take a look, you see, wow, the sunrise. Go out the second day, it's not bad. Third day, it's normal. You don't see the shivas anymore. The rooster, every morning when he sees the sun, it doesn't make a difference. It gives a zalgo gishrei, like as our happiness, as our what do you call it? He's saying that that's the way you're supposed to do. You do mitzvahs, even though it's the same mitzvah every day or everything, but it has to have that reading of it. That you're there. I'm doing the mitzvah. They say, no, okay. It's not a bad motion, by the way. Okay. Okay, the Navi Shekel. Navi Shekel of it is always, in other words, guy comes along and he does a meifus. And so that gives you some kind of shivas. So you look what he can do. He must be somebody. He must be a holy man, right? And Baruch Hashem, he's matzliach. He's being very successful. And so the Yetzer Hara is you want to follow him. Why not? I mean, he's successful. Maybe I'll have a little success too. So you're not allowed to do it. Why? I'm testing you for you to know. Benshi doesn't have to know, he knows. You don't have to do anything. He knows who you are, what you are, and whatever it is there. But you don't know who you are. So you have to know who you are. So that's why I'm giving you this test. I just told it, by the way, to people who have a hard decision to make, and to them they have two different studies, but they hold it mamish shovin to them, and it don't make a difference which they do, but they don't know what to do. So I tell them, flip a coin. Flip a coin. What's flip a coin? I'm going to throw my life on a coin. I said, you flip a coin, what's going to happen is if you want to say, I wish it fell on the other side, you know which way you wanted it to go, and then do it. On the other hand, it doesn't, so good deal. So do what it fell, what it fell on. But Lamai said, for you to know, this, you have to know who you are. You have to know what's bothering you. So you have to know if you're Oyev Hashem Chalvavchem Nafshem. What's that mean? This whole thing? How's this a test? You're following the and first of all, did you ever hear you got a test and they give you the answer? This is a test. It says, I don't want you to follow the Navi, right? So I'm testing you to see if you'll follow the Navi. And telling you the answer is don't follow the Navi, right? Navi said. So what kind of test is it? It's hard to do. I didn't say it wouldn't be hard to do, but we're going to try to test. That's a test type. It's hard to do. Why are you a Fumiyid? Because you're successful? That's the only reason. What happens if you're not successful? Would you also be a Fumiyid? Well, the only reason I'm thinking, and you'll say success alone, nah, that's not a big deal, right? I'll show you. If I would say to any guy here, you can be the best yeshiva in the world. I'm telling you, you're going to have the best yeshiva, because the guy, you'll say the best shiurim, right? But you'll have to, but you're only going to have bread and water to eat. How many people would take it? When I'm successful in what I want to do. But if you're not successful in what you want to do, how are you going to do it? And I'll show you even Goyim do that. What was the thing of this Mother Teresa? She lived with, what do you call it, lepers. And when I went to school, there was a Dr. Schweitzer that also did the same thing in the 30s. And writing about it when I was in the 50s or the 40s and the 50s. So they were writing about this guy who was doing this in the 30s. So there aren't too many people like that. But why were they doing it? They're giving up their life. They could be what do you call it, a regular doctor, or she could be a nun, wherever she wanted to be. But you see, she called her Mother Teresa. Well, how did you get to be that? Because she was willing to sacrifice herself for these lepers. So you see, success. If she would be not successful, nobody would recognize her as anything. Would she continue doing that? I don't know. Maybe yeah, maybe not. But Lamai said that if once you're successful, that you're willing to do it. They said, no kasha. Why wouldn't I do it? It's my success. Are you only frum because you're successful? Is that what it is? Now, when you're looking at this guy and you see success in him, and that's why I want to follow him. So the Torah tells you, don't follow him. Okay, that I'm willing to mikabel, but how much does it hurt me not to follow? How many doubts does it make in my mind that I'm not following? And that's the thing that the Rebbetzin is telling for you to know, for you what to work on. The pshat is not only, let's see, the gashmius of it, because that's usually a smart lady once told me, you know, the easiest way to tell success is how much money you make. That's just totally on money. So, and therefore, if a guy can be doing, the president of the United States, he makes $400,000 a year now, right? But there are plenty of people in business make a lot more, right? So I'm muchash from the president, and they actually feel that way. And they can talk about the president that way, you know, and could be that's the reason why the Melech has to be the richest person of Klal Yisrael, and the Kohen Gadol of all the Kehanim, because that's the easiest way to test success. So I'm successful. Is that's the So people shouldn't think that they're more successful. That's the problem. And not so much we have to make the Kohen Gadol successful, is that people shouldn't think that they're successful. That's the main thing, that they should be mevatel themselves to the king and to the melech and wherever it is there. And that comes with the, what do you call it? You have, we don't have it in England. They have a snobbery of the way they live. I'll give you a marshal of nobility. Anyone that's a noble, is a lord of some sort, he automatically, by thing there, his nose is in the air. Now he's a snob. Why is he a snob? Because I'm, who I am. I'm what he called. And what do you call it? It's not that you have to mind your betters. In other words, these people are better, they don't have to give an answer to the avodim, to the plain people of the country. That they don't have to do. Why? Because they're my betters. I don't have to do it. And they argue among themselves, the what do you call it? The serfs or whatever, even that. My balabas, my Lord is richer than your Lord. My Lord is more powerful than your Lord. What's it got to do with you? You're an Eved in any case, right? No, but I'm an Eved to a bigger person. And that gives you also a shivas. In other words, an Eved of Shlomo HaMelech was, hey, I'm the richest man in the world. There's Shlomo HaMelech, smartest man in the world. And I'm one of his avadim, so I'm choshev. And it's not even the main, the pshat is Eved Melech. That is such a Gemara, so like Eved Melech. Guys just say an Eved of a king, he is a king, because that's how he feels about himself. In other words, I'm only a Eved, but I'm a Sholom Melech. And that's what the Torah wants you to know about yourself, and therefore that's what you're mechuyev to do. And there's a concept of hakos hatov because of it. What was he doing? He was wanted to take you away from the hey, what have you done for me lately? You're talking about Yitzis Mitzrayim how many times? We talk about Yitzis every day, right? It's a long time ago. You see that even the Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't talk about him. I took out of Mitzrayim. I says, how's the poem start? He says, after he goes, what do you call it? What do you call it? Tzichan and Oig, right? And that's all Musa, right? That's the whole things of Musa. What do you tell me about that? What do I do with it? Because what have you done for me lately? In other words, good. You told me about Tzis, that happened 40 years ago. What have you done now? I did Tzichan. I did. Now I can give you Musa. I can give you Musa the whole time, really. But Maisa, you sometimes you feel that way. I think that's part of what you have to learn from the Torah. There's no such thing as what you do for me. That's a type of Hakos HaTov. Hakos HaTov doesn't mean I pay you back for what you did for me. I'll give you Moshe what that means. That's Mishal Murot Tachas Tova. Even the mafia lives up to that. What do I mean? A guy once saves a guy's life. And the guy's life he saved became a hitman for the mafia. And he's assigned to kill this guy who saved his life. And he comes to kill him. And he says to him, you saved my life once. Okay, run. And this is, but next time I meet you, you're dead. So the idea is, I paid you back. Now I'm a free man. I don't have to pay back. That's not Hakos HaTov. Hakos HaTov is, once you did that for me, I can never harm you. Not only can't I harm you, I can't harm your kids. Can't harm your great kids. That's what the whole of Amanamoyev is. You find the Gemara like that. Priya Barav, I guess when he was a little kid, I don't know how old he was, used to cheper Avuna. And Avuna reported him, like, I guess what the Rebbetzin and say, he said, why don't you slug him one? And then he said, wouldn't that solve the problem, right? He said to me, touch the son of Rav. You know who Rav, what Rav did for me? How can I touch the son of Rav? So obviously, is that cause hatayv. I'm not the taste for this thing. And the truth is, if even Yidden have that problem to be market toiv, right? But we're not tested, so the goyim really for sure don't have it, right? On the other hand, you find that Amanamayev were punished because they didn't have a kos hatayv. Okay, so what if you don't expect it? How do you think? Emerson, it should be. And we don't know if people can pass the test if they ever got it. But the world doesn't know it until you were tested. The only ones that we know that got tested that way was Amun Moyev. And therefore we know they flunked, that's for sure. So we also may flunk, but they flunked. Therefore, we can't put together with us. And this is in all the inyanim that we do. The next one is talking about Meses Madiach. So again, only to Avodah Zarah, and the chiva view is to scout the Bavona, Yotchati Kihorig Ta'ageno, Yotchati Yabai Ala Misa. You don't give Hashoya to Meses Madiach. Shadows here, what do we do? And it's a job of even if the one his wife, his father, his children, his best friend, they tell him to do Avodah Zarah, let's go do Avodah Zarah. You're supposed to figure out a way of how to get him caught. Tell me again, and he hides to waiting behind the wall, and they're going to go and kill him. And they seem that this don't make sense. Why? You're asking me to go against my midas too. You're asking me, you're talking about a mother. My mother raised me. My father raised me. He fed me. He fed me food. And he's saying, Afapi came. What? We discovered about one of the mace. He wanted to take you away from that. Now, you owe me more than you owe them. Now, it's my faith came before their faith. And if you were true, you're claiming you're what do you call that you're makatoid. So then you owe me. So how you makatoid because of them? So then it's what the Torah demands you, and so first you have to believe in Jesus Messiah, that's for sure. But I'm saying, but that's what the Torah demands you. But what's it have after we kill him? The whole Yisrael. Didn't say Yisrael, B'nai Yisrael, or like it uses over there, Nishorim, or something of that sort. The whole Yisrael, everybody, Yishbu V'Yiroim, V'lo Yosifu, Lasis Kadavara. They shouldn't do this, continue to do this terrible thing, right? Who does this? You're talking about Avodah Zarah. It was once in a million years, I think. You're right, and they deserve it. Maybe it's once in a million years. No, you're not going to happen. But Meses Madiach, every one of us is a Meses Madiach. What are you talking about? I never asked anyone to do anything wrong. Yeah. Imagine this: we're at a Chavrusas, learning base medrash, real good, just had a real good argument, and one of the two feels like a coffee. If I have somebody else with me, all of a sudden nobody has time. So I have a tremendous selfishness to protect myself, and for that I'm willing to bury you. Now you do a chet, you do what do you call it, and it is a chet, it's bittul teireh. If I was really learning, and the guy just left me away because he asked me, maybe that guy should go, I have to use a coffee, it's that type of an attitude. You weren't really interested in the coffee just because he's going out. So, mamish, that's bittul teireh. And it's knowledgeable bittul teireh. You know what you're doing. That's the time. So everybody does it. So the Rebbetzin was telling me, don't do it. Don't do it. No, then it won't come to Avodah Zarah either. Sure not. But I'm just saying, but the stam being a masis. And you don't even know you're doing it. That's the problem. Then the Yanidachas. Yanidachas has some special laws that have to be there. What is it? One of them is that has to be Anoshim Mikirbecha. It has to be people from the town itself. If strangers came to the town and they were and they convinced everyone to do Avodah Zarah, that's not an Yanidachas. An Yanidachas is only when the people of the town itself come and convince us to do what Yanidachas. You find out and they convince the majority of the people to do this. So the chayef on the bezin is to go check it all out. And once you check it out, you go out and you have to kill them. Not the people, but to kill them individually. That's the funny part. It's like we did about Pearl. They didn't do it. Each guy had to have a swaya, each guy had to be warned, each one had to be and then killed. So yet we learn out from her again here that if you can't kill him the way Beslan wants you to kill him, you can kill him by sword, you can kill him by what do you call it? Any way you can kill him, you chayiv misa. That means if the Yanidachas will put up a fight, then the army of whoever of Klal Yisrael will come in and wipe him out. Simple like the mice of a place we give it, like that type of an idea. That you wanted to stop us from killing the guy because whatever chat is over there. But over here, you're part of the Rebbetzin. But obviously, if you have the life of the city and we come there, they put up a fight. It's not one guy, put up a fight. So we kill them anyway, but you can't kill them except one at a time. And the einish is that even even the guys that did not do Avodah Zarah, all their show, everything that they have, they own, is thrown into the fire and it's burnt and destroyed. I mean, they get an einish too, just for being in the same city with these people. Like, what did they do that's wrong? So first of all, this is one of the three mitzvahs that it says that for at least one man the Yoma that says that it can't happen. Can't happen. So it can't happen, and it's Rosh Mekabel Schar. That's the reason we do it. It's printed, and I said, what's Pet Rosh Mekabel Schar? You know, you have mainly have a little Torah, you have Shizay Mitzvah Nahar. Okay, I can hear one mitzvah was Talmud Torah says, okay, Zay Mitzvah, how long it take you to learn Zay Mitzvah? So I'll give you a couple extra mitzvahs to learn, right? But by us, we can't even finish what we have to finish. So why are you throwing in these extra mitzvahs? It's Toresh Mekabel Schar, means darshan it, learn from it, it's very important things. Not going to go into the other one, which is what he called Nega Nili Baboyis and what do you go about those and this one. We'll talk about this one. So with each of these, it says here that I think that means that you have a situation where if you don't have, or this telling you a fact that we know this by us also. I can tell you, I lived through it. That's why I'm telling you. The law of abortion is not a law that existed 50 years ago. Right? Yet it's the law of the land. A woman has a right to choose on her body whatever it is according to the law. And the Constitution defends this now. In other words, abortion is permitted. People, the Goyim were appalled. It's murder. But then they should have believed in the Catholic churches that a newborn is a baby and what do you call it? It's all murder. Even though Halacha, it's the other way. No, for them it's murder. For them it's murder, and for us it's not murder. And then they the goyim are the ones that do it. I mean, unfortunately, you didn't probably do it too. Abortion. How did it get pissed? It was knocked down every time. Every time we knocked down, we got they lost. But each time the number of divorce. Now, originally, in the end, then they became a majority. And they're still the majority. How did it become a majority? Very simple. You have a silent minority. So there's you have a vocal majority and a vocal minority and a silent majority. They're going to take and they're going to win. It's going to take them 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, but they're going to win in the end. And you'll think about anything that we can think about. And then most of the time when you hear about it, you think, it's never going to happen. That's the attitude. Like, we don't believe it's going to happen. No, how can it be such a shame in the world? How can there be some people that can do such thing? It can't be. But that's our mistake. They do be, what do you call it? We have this in Emerson Parshas Nitzavim, where there talks about, what do you call Alvos. Parshas, it's interesting how it's really for the Tzavim, but it's in the Atem Tzavim Hayem Kulchem with Na'ashem Akechem. So Rashi says a funny lashon in this way. He says because he saw that Klal Yisrael was yellow from pale, got scared from the klolos that was in Kisavai and Chukei Sai. So Mamela, like, how can we live up to a Torah that everything we do is going to be killed? They can't handle it. So he tells them, you guys are still around. Guys, Ben Shalom, don't worry, you guys are all chaitim, and you're still here. So obviously you can live with the Torah. How do I live with the Torah? Because the Ben Shalom is always hoping you're going to do tshuva. He's always holding it with you. He doesn't kill you unless you become what he calls the chatoim. But nice Ben Shalom is a big chacham, and he deals with you normally. Okay. So, Baruch Hashem, we can breathe a little easier now, right? And right after that, he says to him, whatever it is, and he's going to go and what he call, and he's going to do whatever he wants, and he's going. It says, I'm giving you Alvis. If there's such a person, you're going to. And how am I going to live now? So he surely should have gotten sick. Somehow didn't get sick after that. Why? Because the way Alvis is our defense. So it's a big responsibility, but having this responsibility saves us. Because in order that we should not be blamed for your averas, we have to be preaching always not to do those averas, whatever it is there. So therefore, for preaching, then we are the vocal majority. A vocal minority will not win against a vocal majority. You can only win against the silent majority, but against the vocal majority, you can't win. And that's your defense. Now, when I'm defending you, if you become a vocal majority, this matter won't happen. It won't come to this because you can always overwhelm it. That's the lesson. Then it talks about, the first in the Indian, Shmini Atzels. I'm sorry, we know on Shmini Atzeles, we always start our Satasa. That's from Chamishi, we go to the end of the seven. Right? So it says, why? Because Oinus Maisris. Why do you tell me it's Oinus Maisris for? What do I need care if it's Oinus Maisris? This is man of Kriyas of Yontif, and the Parsha of Rei is a Parsha of Yontif, the components of Yontif. We read it on Yontif, this thing. So l'chayre, we should read it over here too. Hey, you haven't got enough psukim, or maybe it's just barely enough psukim from Kol HaBachar. So for 5, it's good enough. For 7, you may not have any. That's why it starts from Asatiyasa. You take a look at the Chumash Asatiyasa, the Kohen gets a big aliyah, and then when it gets down to Shlit, you start again from all the little ones. Back to the thing there. So obviously, we just as a point of getting psukim. So how do you know it's because of Einus Maisus? That's his Pashut boy. It's the only time you say the Three of Yontif. It doesn't even mention Shmini Atzeres in the Yom Tov. It ends with Sukkos. Doesn't enter Shmini Atzeres at all. So why Shmini Atzeres? So therefore, our Shmini Atzeres, you can't say we should lead it. We should read for that. What do you call it? Shelia Chesed. That mentions Shmini Atzeres. What do you call it? You want to with the Musafim mentions Shmini Atzeres. But here it don't mention Shmini Atzeres at all. So it can't be the tree for Yontif, for Shmini Atzeres. So why are we leading this today for? Because it's Einus Maisus. Yeah. What's the Indian of Hanoket? I think the Pashut puts in here Hanoket. Okay. It's a nice midah. I said it before. Okay. No, it's here. It says you should have Hanoket. You had an Eved Ivri. So when you free him, when at the end of the 6 years, you're supposed to give him a certain amount of animals, a certain amount of things. So, hey, I fed you for 6 years. Not only did I feed you, I took care of everything you needed, and I probably was the only thing went in the house. You got it. So why should I give you Hanoki? You don't do that for a worker. You don't give a worker Hanoki. So I think this is the reason. Just go through the United States, when Blinken made the Emancipation Proclamation, right? Avodim at a certain time, a certain thing in the southern states are free. Now, whether they listen or not, it's a different way, but are free. So it could be, now they're part of the states they already captured, so obviously they're going to be free in those states. Let's see, 6 o'clock in the morning was the proclamation, and 12 o'clock we're all free. Okay. So, well, Hashem comes 12 o'clock, we all jump up in the air, we're all free, yay. And 1 o'clock, hey, it's lunchtime. What do? Oh, he goes back to the restaurant, the balabas, to his dining table. So what are you doing here? Says, I came to eat lunch. Says, you don't work for me anymore. You're free. Go work, go make your own money. Where am I going to have money? I can't make money now. I'm hungry. I want to eat. Right? So what do they have to become? Ganovim, Gazonim, Rotzchim, right? That's what happened. I don't think it was intentional for that to happen, but that's what happened. And therefore, to adjust to get back to a normal society is very schwer. But by us, you want a guy, you free him now from his debit, but how is he supposed to live until he gets a job? How's he supposed to live? He becomes a pile. You're supposed to give him something that he's supposed to take that he's able to live so freedom can take place. That's called freeing a person. You're giving him something that he can start a business, he can start something with himself. Then you freed him. You didn't free him. You just made him put him into becoming a Vatseach and all that stuff. You didn't free him. One of the schwerer parts of the thing is to understand. This is what we read all the Yontif. Shomer is Chodesh Aviv. Why? Loila. It says, "We went out of Beatzmayim Azeh." Paroi gave us rishus to go out at night, Therefore, go out and for Rashi, the way you learn it means we needed the Rishus of Pari. Like obviously, Rashi can't mean such a thing because the Meshach didn't need the Rishus of Pari. We were free. It was free. We just walk out. There's nothing we can do. And besides that, the thing was we were free 6.5 months before. So we didn't need anything there, but we stood there. We stayed in Mitzrayim until Pali gave us issues. Why? Because the nation wanted to break him, that you're going to also give us issues. You're also going to give us korbanos to break. I want to break it that you can do kineged your rots and kineged everything that you believe in. I'm going to break you. That's what the nation wanted. But the Maise, I didn't need your rishus. And that's the thing is, we were there, Laila, and that was our freedom. And I think to a certain extent, Pali probably had a heart attack when they were there, right? Now, it should have been, they should have gone out as soon as all the Mason were dead, right? Now you're free. No one's even thinking about you. You can leave. And they don't leave. They're hanging around. And they're having a party, they're making a suda. Pari can say, maybe they changed their minds. Maybe they're not going. They killed all my Bechayrim, they can kill us too. So therefore, maybe they decided to take over the country. Right? So until they actually left, Pari probably had a heart attack and so forth. But all of us, they finally left. Why did they leave? Because we wanted to leave. But we became free, Laila. When I was at night, we were free, meaning we had control of the whole country and everything we wanted to do, we could have done, and we left. That was freedom. The thing that we did what our Rebbetzin wanted to do, not what normally the world would do, not normally what we tried to show off people. We did what the Bamidbar told us to do, leave, and we left. And the reason we left, obviously, because the Bamidbar wanted to get rid of all our machshavos, of all our the culture of Mitzrayim. They wanted about the fact that people, we grew up in Mitzrayim, that's why 4/5 or whatever is died. Only Chamushim went out because most people, why do you want to go out? I like this land. I'm used to this land. It's a different kind of land. You told me to go to a land where I'm not guaranteed anything at that time. You told me to go to land with its mountains and this and that, and it's not even waters that are always there. They come in the winter time, you have the wadis or whatever it is, and so it melts, and they come down into you have little rivers, and that if you irrigate your fields, or if you get from the rain. That's a pretty unsafe, but depending only on the rain. I don't have the water hoses, what do you call it, where you water your lawn or something like that. I don't have those things, so they should die. Right? So why would I want to go to such a land? And because that's what the Bamidbar wants us. In Hashem, I want you to be there where you'll feel my control at all times. That's the biggest bracha in a way, not the biggest call. And the fact that when God is displeased with you, when things start going wrong, do tshuva now. Don't wait until you're dead. Do tshuva now. You see things that now you something messed up on something, and you went through it with things that it's, you tried to figure out if it has to do with I'm going through those things now, but I tested already against those things. And obviously means God wants something from me. There's definitely I did something wrong or something like that. Do tshuva. And then it's easy to do tshuva. When you wait till you get used to whatever you're doing or whatever it is there, then it's too late. That's the Bamidbar does that for you. He gives us that warning, that time that we should know when it is. Just one other thing was the union of Ribis. We told you before that an akum you can the nosa and a goyim that him you should press them. You can press them, but you can't do that for money. That's halacha, which a lot of people forget or don't know. The guy keeps telling you it's in the mail. I'm getting paid tomorrow, or things of that sort, excuses constantly. It doesn't give you a share, but you understand that after a few times, you also ask him for money. Can't ask him for money he owes you, because you're embarrassing him, and they see you love Kenosi. You're not allowed to be like a guy. What a guy says to him, I'm sorry, I don't have. I can ask him every day. Why? Because he's not embarrassed. Not embarrassed to talk to me, so it's not a problem. So he tell me I don't have, so don't have, okay. But maybe one day you'll have, so that's why I keep asking you. Okay. So Rosa tells you those about ribbis. That the goy you can charge ribbis. What pshat in ribbis? Why is there need some ribbis? I mean, well, I could tell you wanted it, and I meant to say, to understand what's ribbis is. What do you need money for? Somebody, what do you need money for? Only to buy things that you need. If I have everything that I need, money is a waste of, not only a waste of time, it takes up places, especially like I didn't have a bank. I'd have to go and dig it in my backyard. I'm an old man, I can't dig anymore. It's not there too many holes I got over there, and I got to remember where they are and stuff like that. So it's not an easy thing having money. You don't need money. So a guy comes along and he says, "Could I borrow you money that you're not using anyway?" So I want to say no. Why? Why are you saying no? Okay, he says, well, a good question. Why am I saying no? So if I say because maybe he won't be able to pay me up back, so I'm telling you, please to loan him like you love anybody else. If you're worried, you're saying, but I could invest it, or I'm in the bank when they were paying a little bit something for it. Now, at least making 2%. To you, I'm not going to make anything. So then you have a head to the skin. The only object that you have, the thing that used to be a bank, they used to say, we rent money. They don't rent money, they loan money. When you rent is I return the object itself back. Money, I have to give you a different money back. So therefore, that's called a loan. The different, it's called a loan. It's the same, it's called a rent. You don't rent money unless you'd say, I want to show off as being a gevir. So I want to rent from you hundreds that I want to put in my pocket. And anytime a guy say, you have any money? I'll just put the thing there and they'll see how rich I am and whatever it is. So for that, maybe a lot of charges would be such a thing. For doing that, it costs you $50 a day to be able to show off $100 a day. But that's renting money. But the real, that you don't rent money, you borrow money. And you use it to buy things you need. On the other hand, I rent a car and I get the car back. I rent whatever I rent you, a chair or a cover, they rent these things. What do you call couches, stuff like that. Right now, you don't need it anymore. You give it back, right? Costs money. Why? Because on all things, I'm allowed to charge you because when you use it, I'm losing a shtickle of that use. And once I use a shtickle of that use, I can charge you for that use, no matter how much I want to charge you. Not a chair, I'm only going to charge you $5 or $10, whatever it is. Charge you whatever I want. In other words, you find the Gemara, even if so you be potter, but if you dirty the wall, you have to pay him the whole price, not just for to patch up the little wall that you dirty. Why? Because once you did the thing, now we're talking about money. Now you can charge the whole money, whatever. There's no shielding money. I'm trying. But if I'm not taking anything away from you, forget I'm doing you a favor. You would have to put it in the ground. I'm saving you and give it to me meanwhile, so you don't have to do anything. So now the question is, so what do you want? I don't want to give you the money. Money, I'm telling you, give them the money. Once I don't trust, there's also the Benjamin says, depends obviously. If there's somebody, I'm not mechuyev to trust anybody. Meaning you take a mashke. That they're not mechuyev, even the poorest money. you're allowed to take a mashkin from her. Why? But that's a different story. That's I want to get. No one's telling me to give away my money. You want to give me stock? I'll give you stock. But I'm not mechuyev to loan you stock. That's giving you stock. That's not loaning you stock. A guy says, I want to borrow. I need money for Shabbos. So you loan me $100, and I know you can't pay back. How do I know you can't pay back? Because you've been borrowing $100 a week for the last 10 years. And you can't even make enough to pay for that for 1 year. So how are you going to pay me back for the 10 years? The banks. I know you're not going to pay me back. Elavos, you want to be a nice guy. You want to feel better. He used the word loan instead of give me a barrel. It's like, so with those people, you make a deal. I can't afford to loan you now because I need the money. I'll give you $50 instead of 100. I'll give you $20 the money. I'll grab it. Because he knows that this one is completely free from. And the other. Anyway, Rodain, a good Shabbos and Atzlocha at the beginning of the new Zman. Everyone should be Matzliach. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Rebbe. Good Shabbos.
Check the source. It goes on by